It's nice and sunny, and we're glad you could join us today. My name is Courtney Brown, and I'm a member of Baltimore County's Economic and Workforce Development Team. Again, thank you for joining us at this time. We hope that this session will offer valuable guidance and useful information to help inform business owners and managers on how to create and pivot business plans in our changing COVID landscape. We are joined today by Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski and our new Director of Economic and Workforce Development, Leonard Howie, who will introduce himself and give us a little background on his experience. We will then hear from our excellent group of panelists that will give us insight into complying with executive orders, how to take advantage of DEW's economic offerings, and hear from someone who has gone through that process. For those of you who have just joined us, please type any questions you may have throughout our conversation into the chat feature on your screen. You can open up the chat by clicking on the icon located at the bottom of your screen. It looks a bit like a cartoon dialogue bubble. I want to thank you to our panelists for joining us today. Mr. James Benjamin, attorney with Baltimore County. Stan Jacobs, Chief Financial Officer with the Department of Economic and Workforce Development, and Melanie Wagner, owner of Charles Billow Pub. I'll ask each of our panelists to share their insights and recommendations with all of you. But first, we want to join me in welcoming Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski. He's here with us today, and we're looking to speak with him about his position on all aspects related to county's COVID-19 emergency response and his commitment to doing everything within his power to help our Baltimore County businesses make it through this crisis intact. Mr. County Executive, thank you for coming today.
Sure. Thank you, Courtney, for that very kind introduction. Hello to everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you virtually today. I want to thank Courtney and everyone at the Economic Development, Workforce Development team for all they do. But again, thanks for being here and for your continued investment in Baltimore County. We truly appreciate your commitment to our county, to our communities. We know that small businesses are the backbone of Baltimore County, and we know that these times have been very difficult for our business community. We know that COVID-19 and the pandemic has fundamentally upended the entire way of life for so many of us. Yet, despite these challenges, we know that our business communities and our individual businesses continue to show up and show your resilience day in and day out. I want you to know that everyone here in Baltimore County government is dedicated, and we remain dedicated to doing whatever we can to support all of you. Since March, we've allocated millions of dollars to small businesses to support payrolls, make capital investments in safety equipment, and so much more. And we will continue to do all that we can to keep our businesses safely open. As you may have heard and read, and we all know, the number of cases of COVID continues to rapidly accelerate, which oftentimes prompts new public health efforts at both the state and local level. We understand these changes can oftentimes be confusing to so many of you and to your patrons. That's why throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Baltimore County has really strived to align with the state whenever possible. And we've continued to advocate for any action being done at the state level, because we know that a patchwork solution is not ideal. Patchworks create confusion. They put businesses just miles apart on different playing fields, and they are fundamentally less effective from a public health perspective. So by aligning with the state whenever we can, we have consistently tried to maintain a level playing field for businesses while also maximizing the health impacts of any restrictions, also minimizing confusion, hopefully, for you and for our residents. When it comes to statewide changes on what's allowed or disallowed, we often learn those details alongside all of you and the rest of the public, which has required us to quickly adapt to find the best way forward. We remain committed to doing whatever is necessary to protect public health while also keeping businesses open. We know this is not easy for you to navigate, so we're here to help talk about what the latest executive orders mean for you. Today, I'm excited for the panel who will help learn to decipher executive orders, how they impact your business. I want to thank our business owner for actually being here and telling the story. thank you, Melanie, for being part of that conversation to actually tell us what it's like from your perspective as well. Moving forward, we'll continue to advocate for statewide action to eliminate confusion wherever possible. And we're going to keep looking for ways to support our businesses and our families as this pandemic stretches on. There's light at the end of the tunnel with a vaccine, but our numbers and our hospitalizations are as high as they've ever been. So we have to make sure we get through this together. And that work includes calling on Congress to provide new support for state and local governments, as well as businesses that have lost revenue and individuals who've lost jobs. This will be critical to help navigate the rest of the pandemic and to ensure a strong economic recovery. Because the only way we can get through this together is together. The only way we'll get through this is together. So if there are questions afterwards, please let us know. You can contact businesshelp@baltimorecountymd.gov. Our team is here for you. Our economic and workforce development team is ready to lend a hand. I want to end again by re-recognizing one of our newest team members, Leonard Howie, our newest director of the economic and workforce development team. He officially joined us in November and brings decades of experience with him across federal, state, and local governments. I believe his experience and knowledge is yet another critical tool and support for us as we take on this unprecedented crisis together. But thanks again for everyone for being here. And thank you, Leonard. I will turn the floor over to you.
No, thank you, Mr. County Executive, for that kind introduction. Welcome, everybody. Looking forward to joining you in today's webinar. A lot of important information out there, and I'm sure that our team will do the best we can to answer and be responsive to whatever questions you may have. As the county executive mentioned, I am brand new to the team. I joined on November 9th. I'm extremely excited and honored to be here. Baltimore County is a vibrant community. It has a very expansive employer base, dedicated workforce, and I look forward to bringing my experiences to bear to help us really address our mission of attracting, retaining, expanding businesses, and really expanding Baltimore County's economic base. I'm coming most recently from the United States Department of Labor, where I ran the Office of Workers' Compensation Programs and was a judge on the Administrative Review Board. But more importantly to Baltimore County, I was state labor secretary for Maryland for a while. And that experience brought me directly to a lot of the issues that directly face Baltimore County, its businesses, and its workers and its workforce. So I look forward to joining the team and to helping to lead the efforts to make sure that our county is positioned, especially coming out of COVID one day soon, really responding to the challenges and doing everything we can to foster the economic recovery that we know is needed. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Courtney.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. County Executive and Leonard, for all that you are doing and for taking the time to be with us today. I know, we all know that you may have to drop off the call, but you're more than welcome to stay as long as you can be with us. We've gathered a group of panelists today who we believe can offer some guidance during this time for you. Please remember, we will save all questions until the end. And also as a reminder, please feel free to continue to send your questions through our chat feature. We're going to start with executive orders and have a bit of a discussion with Baltimore County's attorney, James Benjamin. Thank you for being here today, James.
Well, thank you. It is a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'm really happy to be here. I look forward to the discussion.
James, can you break down the executive orders for us?
Sure. I know that deciphering executive orders can be confusing, so I will try my best to make it less so. The state's executive order allows political subdivisions such as Baltimore County to issue orders that are more restrictive than the state executive order. And so what the county has done is issue an executive order that is more restrictive as it relates to social gatherings. The executive order, which I believe was issued, I think, on November 23rd, 24th, breaks down indoor social gatherings and outdoor social gatherings. Indoor social gatherings of more than 10 people are prohibited, and outdoor social gatherings of more than 25 people are prohibited. So what we tried to do was look at what that means, what social gatherings means for purposes of the executive order. For purposes of the county's executive order, social gatherings do not include gatherings that would be at retail establishments, religious facilities, personal services establishments, food service establishments, fitness centers, gaming facilities, racing facilities, indoor theaters, and outdoor entertainment venues, as those terms are defined. Those terms are defined in the executive order. Social gatherings also do not include gatherings at outdoor recreation establishments or indoor recreation establishments, except for those that involve or concern non-professional sports gatherings and events other than collegiate sports that have had a COVID plan approved by the Baltimore County Department of Health. And we also tried to say what it includes. And it includes, but it's not limited to, family gatherings, parties, cookouts, parades, festivals, conventions, fundraisers, and other gatherings that are not associated with operating or patronizing a business. And they should also include non-professional sports gatherings and events, with the exception of collegiate sports that have had a COVID plan approved by the Baltimore County Department of Health. My office, the Office of Law, issued interpretive guidance to try to spell out a little bit more or interpret the executive order. And in the interpretive guidance, we said that social gatherings would include all non-professional sports gatherings and events, except for those collegiate sports, as I mentioned before, and shall include high school, youth, amateur, and or recreational sports, tournaments, scrimmages, and organized events, including those sports, tournaments, scrimmages, and organized events held outdoors and indoors as at indoor recreation establishments, as that term is defined in Executive Order 20-23, which is the most recent one that was issued. So, go ahead.
And I heard you mention the specifics for our businesses. I'm sure they're listening keenly and wanting to hear specifically how and what this means for them.
Well, what it means is looking at the limits as far as individuals who can come to the business. The executive order, with the exception of those that deal with non-professional sports, except for collegiate sports, you're looking at, well, what is the limit? The limitation, whether it's retail establishments, religious facilities, food service establishments, personal services establishments, it would be 50% of the maximum capacity. That is in line with the state order. It's the state executive order. So I think it's very important to make sure that the businesses are aware of that particular baseline. And then also, too, keep in mind when individuals are coming, just exactly what events they're looking to do at that particular business. If there's a situation where it could be considered as a sports, high school, youth, amateur, or recreational sports tournament, scrimmage, or organized event, that would be subject to the stricter restriction of 10 indoor and 25 outdoor. So being cognizant of the limits, I think is very important.
Speaking on that point, it's easy to forget these limits as they pertain to each industry or specific establishment. Can you help to remind our businesses and our managers where they can find this information to stay up to date?
Sure. The link you would want to go to www.baltimorecounty.md.gov/COVID-19. That's 19. That is the link. where you can have access to the county's executive order, as well as the interpretive guidance. And of course, you may also feel free to contact our office, and the number is 410-887-4420.
Thank you very much, James. I know our businesses listening in today appreciate this clarity. And that number and web address will be available in our chat.
Okay,
Thank you so much, James.
thank you.
We're very grateful to have another member of our Baltimore County team to help us today to unpack all of this information. Stanley Jacobs, thank you for coming and being with us today. He's a member of our economic development team. Hi, Stan.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks for the introduction. What I wanted to do is take a couple minutes and give a little bit of an overview of what our department does, and then I'll go into some of the financing options that you might have as you kind of maneuver through the banking world and government program world. So the Department of Economic Development is really what I consider a business liaison. We help small businesses, large businesses, entrepreneurs that are starting up businesses to try to foster their growth, to try to help them, expand in the county and hopefully attract some new business to the county. That's our mission in life. And the way we do that is we help companies find locations in the county, either to lease or buy. We help them with workforce issues. So if you're looking for some employees, or if you're looking to train existing workforce, we have some training programs that might be able to assist. We do operate 3 workforce development centers throughout the county, which we help folks find employment if they need to be reemployed. And we try to help match them with businesses that operate here in the county. We also help with zoning issues if they pop up, permit issues. We really dive into virtually any issue that a business might touch or have an issue with different governmental units, being federal, state, or county. So we're here to help. So please reach out to us.
We want to hear more about the ways in which we can help from a financial standpoint as well. Can you share with us today a little bit about the financial and loan options?
Sure. The main challenge today for every business is, how do you get enough capital? How do you finance your business? COVID has really turned the world upside down, especially from the business community. So, what we try to do is match businesses with the appropriate program to make sure that they can obtain the capital they're looking for. So there are federal programs, there are state programs, and there are county programs. Most of the federal programs are administered through the local banks. So they would be the Small Business Administration, SBA loan guarantee programs, which can guarantee loans up to $5 million in size. And that can be for working capital, it can be for equipment acquisition, leasehold improvements, virtually anything. So you would go directly to a bank for that type of assistance. And then the SBA also has a direct loan program where they can help if you're buying a building or you're putting an addition on the building, they can help finance that. Again, with bank financing, it's sort of a partnership. There are also some state programs that have direct loans. So they do have direct loan capabilities. They can lend up to $5 million for small businesses. And small business is generally any entity that's under 500 employees. That's by SBA definition. And there are very specific state agencies that can help borrowers that have credit issues. Because of COVID, COVID has impacted a lot of personal credit scores. So if you go to a bank and you're looking for a loan, if your credit score is under 650, a bank is just going to walk away. They're going to say, we can't help you. But there's one entity called the Latino Economic Development Center, which can provide loans to individuals with really very weak credit. What they do is they'll start you out with a small loan, try to build your credit back up, and then hopefully one day you'll be able to get back into the banking world.
That tip is very helpful.
Yep.
As businesses are, shifting and making changes, knowing where they can go to strengthen their credit will be important. Can you tell me, since there is a universe of potential resources for these small businesses, where they can find more information or how to apply for all the programs that you were speaking of?
Well, the county programs, generally, you would just go to our Baltimore County MD.gov site and go into our economic development segment of the site, and you can then see our loan programs, which we do operate several direct loan programs that can lend up to $250,000 for working capital, real estate acquisition, leasehold improvements. It's really across the board. And then for state programs, you could go to Maryland Department of Commerce site.
Okay.
And federal would be the Small Business Administration site. That would be the most direct route to get to it. But if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, call or email our business helpline, and we'll certainly direct you in the right place.
Can you tell me just a little bit about our process, the DUDE's process, Department of Economic and Workforce Development, if there is interest in a particular loan program that they see at our site?
Sure. So our programs tend to be used with bank financing because we have limited capital. But basically, there's an application process. So we have a inquiry form, which is kind of the initial step into our department. And then I'll reply back to everyone that makes an inquiry, determine what their need is, and then determine whether it's something that we are able to help with or whether I need to redirect it to another program, be federal, state, or county. The easiest thing to do would be to just hit the inquiry, fill out, then I can understand what your business is, what you're looking for, and then I can kind of guide you appropriately.
Okay.
But our general loan process is there's an application, formal application. Generally, it goes to a loan committee. Once it's approved, we issue a commitment letter, and then we go to funding somewhere down the line.
And if they forget the web address, they can always email business help
Correct.
at baltimorecountymd.gov, and you'll be waiting to respond to their
Correct.
questions, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
I'll just look forward to it.
Thank you so much, Dan, for providing all that information to us and providing us with a means to understand a bit more about the process.
You're welcome.
We know that at these times, financial opportunities can make a big difference for our local community. So we appreciate that you're at the ready to help and to provide clarity. So keeping that in mind, I'd like to introduce Melanie Wagner, a local Baltimore County business owner. She is the owner of Charles Village Pub, a local restaurant that has gone through the process of working with our economic development team to receive assistance. Hi, Melanie. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, how are you?
Great. We're anxious and excited to hear what you have to share with us about your experience with receiving assistance from economic and workforce development, just hearing about the overall process of applying and receiving those funds. Anything you can offer us in that realm?
Sure. So I applied and received 2 grants from the county. The Small Business Reimbursement Grant, which was $10,000, and the Small Business Restaurant Reimbursement Grant, which was $15,000, and I got my check today.
Oh, congratulations. Perfect day to talk with you, right?
Very excited to get that.
Great.
And basically the grants are to reimburse restaurants for some of the additional costs of trying to stay open during COVID. We've all spent a ton of money on trying to convert outdoor spaces for more seating, furniture and plants and lighting, umbrellas, outdoor heaters, like tents, and then the amount of money spent on, and it would surprise people, the amount of money spent on gloves, sanitizer, masks, all those extra cleaning products. It is enormous. It is an enormous amount of money. So The grants really were great to help reimburse for those extra expenses. Sales are down and then expenses are up. So,
And you spoke about the check that you received today, your award check that you received today, and you referenced the previous check that you received. How is this going to impact or provide you some relief in your regular operating with your business?
it definitely helps. I obviously have been trying to apply for anything that I qualify for. I think based on location, some restaurants are probably doing maybe better than normal. But I think in Towson, most of us are dying a slow death here, just with having all of the, county buildings are closed. All of our big corporate offices are closed. I used to do a lot of work with like Stanley Black & Decker, and, things like that. So without all of those business, employees here, I think most places in Towson, I think, have really suffered. So it's been great to have, the grant.
So the dollars are helping to relieve some of that pressure from the shifts that have resulted in the impact of COVID, right?
Right. Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you for offering that. Is there anything unique that you're trying with the dollars to bring some energy into your business during this challenging time, opportunity time? I like to talk about situations like this.
So we started. I think a lot more people are. Obviously, people are scared, to go to restaurants. So we had started more like some family dinner type things where people could pick up and choose, either for 2 people or 4 people. So in the beginning of COVID, that was going really well. And then in the summer, we had more people actually, coming out and maybe picking up things themselves. But I'm starting to see that happen again where people are picking up dinner for the family or something.
Great, great. And I can see as you're explaining it how some of the relief funds can help support the creation of these ideas or help you provide some income to have staff do this for you.
Right. So, well, these 2 grants are specifically to reimburse for expenses we already incurred.
You already incurred for.
It's still, goes to the bank account and then you have, money to do other things. So
absolutely. It's about shifting, things around, right? Can you talk to the businesses out there and provide some, support on them coming to the Department of Economic Development, having conversations about what the team can do for them?
I would say it's probably intimidating for some people to, and it's an easy process, but some people, such as my husband, would never be able to get on the computer and handle that and get his paperwork submitted and things like that. And I would encourage, if you're having any questions, just to send the email. And I know people don't like doing that because they feel like they're not going to get an answer, but I have found the response time incredibly fast, like absolutely the same day. And a lot of times, like 15 minutes later, my question is answered. So I would encourage people, it's a little bit of paperwork, but it's really not bad. And to go ahead and apply for everything available, all they can say is no, so if you, or maybe they run out first, but, they're replenishing some of the funds. So if you didn't qualify the first time around, your name will still be there when they, if the funds get replenished down the road.
This is great because you're providing 3 bits of information, some nuggets, if you will. First of all, ask the question, send the email, right? And then apply for everything. Stay in touch with your community, your resources, so that you know what's happening, what's being promoted in terms of programs. And 3, fill out the paperwork. It'll take a little bit of time, but you'll benefit in the end.
Right.
That's what I hear you saying.
I've been very impressed with the speed with which Baltimore County has been able to handle these requests and things like that. So that's been surprising. I was expecting to wait a lot longer on some of these things, and really the funds were here very quickly.
Can you share with us, if you will, have you taken advantage of any non-COVID loans through the department?
So there is a boost loan, and I've worked with Stan on that in the past. I haven't taken advantage of it during COVID. Honestly, I'm a little afraid of how much debt I'm getting. I don't want to get into too much debt. And we already had to take out the EIDL federal loan. And we've taken out the Paycheck Protection loan, which I believe some will be forgiven, but we don't know. And so I've held off on that because I'm just afraid of more debt. I mean, although the grants and things have helped, it is not, we're operating at a loss every single day. We're still operating at a loss. And I do think it is location dependent. I have friends further out in the county. They're doing better. They're doing more business this year than they've ever done before because there's not 100 places around them. But I think here, especially in the densely populated areas, I'm sure Towson isn't the only one. I'm sure, maybe Bel Air, some of these places I'm sure have the same issue. But I would say most of us are just operating at a loss every single day. So you don't know what's coming around the corner. We're just it's like the waiting game. It's just waiting to see what will happen.
And that's what speaks to your point about apply for all that you can, right? You shared with us a little bit about working with Stan in the past on Boost. Mm-hmm. What were you able to use with Boost funds? Do you recall that?
I do. I believe this is years ago. It was a Boost loan for we own the property next to us.
Okay.
I think that's what Stan, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but it were minority or female owned, majority female owned, and so we qualified for that loan, and it gave us a nice interest rate. And the Boost loan is nice because it helps small business people that maybe don't have the deep pockets that some people do to invest in the community, and therefore generate revenue right here in our community, and and the taxes are going right back to the community and so forth.
Wow, Melanie, you've been a wealth of information. We're talking grants, we're talking Boost loans. We can mix it up and just share what's really out there and what's possible if you're able to be a bit creative and a little bit patient, but committed to wanting to keep your business alive and to work with us, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you very, very much for your time today. I'm sure a lot of our listeners appreciate your perspective and hearing about your real business realities. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So now I would like to use the time to open it up for any questions that anyone has been sitting on. Hey, Stan, I wanted to turn it back to you. I had a question come up about licenses. What do or what can our businesses do if they have licensing questions or are needing to deal with any regulatory issues? How can they talk through those things? How can they receive any guidance?
Again, they can reach out to us through our business help email, and we can either place a call over to the clerk of the court who handles most of the licensing. We can also refer them over to our Small Business Resource Center, where they've had a lot of experience in different licensing and processes and the like. So I would say just reach out to us through business help.
At Baltimore County, MD.gov, right?
Yep.
Okay. And do they need anything in order to start a conversation with you, like a business plan, or to start a conversation with our small business office?
Well, if you're applying for a loan, we certainly would need a business plan if it's a startup. Mm-hmm. If you've been in business less than 2 years, we would like a business plan. And a bank would also require a business plan. Our Small Business Resource Center can help individual entrepreneurs develop that plan. That's a free service from the county. So, if you're a startup thinking about starting a business, I would reach out to us. Again, Small Business Resource Center would be the source of information and support for that early stage enterprise. And then once you get into the financing side, then it would come again back to me.
Okay.
once the business plan's there, and I would review it and make sure the numbers make sense, and then again try to piece some financing together through multiple.
So between you and our small business office, you'll talk through business plan, maybe marketing plan, and could they also answer any questions about filing tax forms, establishing trade names?
Yeah, we can help them
Things
with
like
all
that.
those things. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you. I know that this may be a difficult question to get a definitive on from you, but how would a business qualify even for a loan? I mean, is it going to vary based on the individual's credit rating? I guess where I'm getting at is the package. What's a part of that package to qualify?
Well, the first thing that we look at, and any bank would look at, is the personal credit score.
Okay.
So that's step one. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you've got pretty decent credit before you go to apply anywhere. If you don't, if you have weaker credit, the Latino Economic Development Center would be the place to go. You don't have to be Latino to apply there. They'll accept any applications. So you don't have to be Latino, even though that's in their name.
Okay.
The second thing would be, if you're a startup, that's the hardest financing to obtain because you have no track record. So most people use family, friends, not even borrow money. It's like an equity investment in a startup. But we have done some startups for well-established individuals that have great management experience or business experience and trying to start up their own enterprise. But startups are a challenge. If you're existing business, the cash flow of your business is really going to drive how much you can borrow. So if you have a track record, you've been profitable, those are easier to manage. And then we're going to look at, what you're using the money for. Are you buying a building? If you're buying a building, that's obviously collateral, so it's then secured, and that's a little bit easier to maneuver through.
And so a startup and Boost, is that an easy fit? That depends again?
Again, it depends on the management team, the ownership structure, what they're bringing to the table. The startup is challenging, but if there's some collateral, maybe a personal residence that has some equity, or maybe they have some personal guarantors that have a little bit of financial strength, we can try to work through that. And we've been pretty successful in doing that.
Okay. So if everyone's hearing out there, you have unique issues based on your financial situation of your business right now, you'll want to email businesshelp@baltimorecountymd.gov and to craft a specific question for Stan, and perhaps he can email you back or call you back, and so you guys can talk about potential next steps. Thank you, Stan. I had a question coming in concerning the executive orders and businesses remaining open. The question is, can my business remain open if it was not specifically closed by the governor's executive order? I think that's intended for you, James, unless, Stan, you have a notion on this question.
I think I'll leave that one up to James.
Okay.
Oh, you're too kind, Stan. No, I think that if there isn't anything in the executive order that requires the business to be closed, then it's reasonable to think that it would be able to be open, subject to the restriction, if any, with regard to occupancy. It depends on the specific type of business.
Okay, so again, that may be a one-on-one type of question. They could give you a call. Could you repeat that number for us?
Sure, 410-887-4420. And people can also feel free to email me. My email is jrbenjamin@baltimorecountymd.gov.
Thank you. Thank you. He's made his work email available for you all. So don't bombard him too much,
Yeah.
but he's here to help and to make sure that things are clear. I had one more question for you, James.
Sure.
What if my business provides personal services to people at their private homes, outdoors, or other non-commercial property?
That's a good question. I think that it would depend on a couple of things. One, the specific permit that was given, for the business. And
Okay.
I think also, too, it would be helpful if there are any concerns to perhaps reach out to the Department of Permits and Inspections to see whether or not there may be limitations or restrictions as to the permit. It would depend, I
permit.
guess, on the size of the home. A lot of different factors could come into play. So I think it would be helpful to look at the permit and then, depending on who issued it, to reach out to the state or to the county.
We had a question just come in concerning sports. There's some confusion, I think, related to sports, club sports, things like that. Do private club sports, are they not allowed to practice? There's, like I said, there's some confusion between what club sports are allowed to do and what other non-club sports are allowed to do.
Well, under the executive order and the interpretive guidance, social gatherings would include high school, youth, amateur, and/or recreational sports, tournaments, scrimmages, and organized events. So it would seem that club sports would fall within those parameters. If there are additional questions, I'm happy to discuss. They can feel free to give me a call, can email me. Happy to discuss if there are further questions. But it would appear that club sports would fall within the parameters of the executive order and the interpretive guidance. One thing I should also add with regard to the executive order that was issued, I think it was November 24th, it is in effect for 45 days. It's something that it's not indefinite. It's a finite amount of time. So essentially it gets through the holiday season. And so it would be effective, I think, through January 8th of 2021. And of course, depending on how things are with COVID, it may need to be extended. But it's just important for the business owners to be aware that it's in effect for 45 days.
Thank you for providing that clarity in regards to the time frame, because I know that there are being some questions about, well, is this, perpetual? I mean, will we ever be clear of the restrictions and the capacity limits and things like that? So thank you for giving us that breakdown. Thank you so much, James.
Very welcome.
Melanie, we didn't forget about you. There's a question that's coming for you as well. We had a few businesses wanting to hear about lessons that you've learned as an owner during COVID. Would you do anything different? Are there new things that you would like to try?
Lessons I've learned. Well,
is this a tricky one?
You have to adapt. You have to be willing to, think outside of the box and adapt and go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, honestly, it's really been a very, very difficult situation. Probably one of the worst things I've ever been through, especially when you love your business and you've owned it for a long time, and it's more than just a business. It's kind of a part of the family and things. I feel like I did as much as I could. I wish I had even, maybe there was one or two things I did miss out on in the beginning because I didn't apply for them in the first week.
Okay.
I think I was March 23rd,
Mm-hmm.
and I missed that $10,000 grant. I forget what it was now.
Through the county, the Small Business Emergency Relief Grant. Is that what you're referring?
Well, that's okay, and that's the one that I actually got later. So I did end
Okay.
up getting that one later, but the loan. So I missed out on
The
that.
loan.
And it
Okay.
was, I guess I thought that, the money would be there. So
Would be there.
what I've learned from that is to apply immediately.
Apply
for
soon.
everything.
Right. And make sure to submit the application, right? Don't just create it, but submit it.
Right.
Well, thank you for your candor and just sharing with us your own experience, because, hearing someone else's experience can teach us what we should do better.
I would be happy to, if anyone wants to maybe get a group of restaurant owners together, or I would be happy to do something like that, because I do think we have a somewhat unique business.
Absolutely.
Compared to,
Yeah.
and I'm not downplaying and saying other places are not hurting, but I definitely think we have a unique situation.
Right.
And it's closing down is not really, not a very good option because of the staff. Trying to restaff and reopen would be really hard. So I think, possibly Baltimore County could maybe benefit from specifically hearing from some restaurants of some things that could, be more beneficial.
Well, thank you for that tip. And I think we have a bunch of ears listening, and so you may be contacted, right? Thank you, Melanie, so much.
Thank you.
Stan, I have another question for you. A participant has asked, are there determining factors as to how much an individual can get funding-wise based on how they file their business, i.e. sole proprietorship, LLC, hair salon versus an art gallery?
So it really doesn't make any difference what type of corporate structure you have. The real bottom line is what's your profitability, what can you cover in debt service, how much can you pay a month. We need to be comfortable that you can repay the loan, because it is a loan. So we're looking at what your profitability is, what your cash flow is, and what you can service monthly comfortably. So it's really not the corporate structure. That really doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you so much for providing that clarification.
Sure.
Well, I thank you all for joining us today. I thank our panelists for their time. And in the interest of time, we want to respect everybody and their next steps after today. If you have any questions and we couldn't get to you, or you would like to work with a member of our business team, please email us directly at businesshelp@baltimorecountymd.gov, or go to our website, baltimorecountybusiness.com. Thank you for joining us. Good luck, and please, everyone, continue to stay safe and mask up. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.